Gen Z's desire, which I see among my peers, I see all across social media, ironically, but it's a desire to leave a technological world behind, or a world that's so focused on social media or digital connection or digital product or AI, and a real desire to enter the real world and encounter other people personally and face to face, do work that's meaningful.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Gen Z Unplugged. We are so excited to have you all with us today because we are introducing our brand new host of the show, Anastasia Leffas. We're super excited to have her on board, and we're excited to get to know you a little bit more. So thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Lauren.
Okay, so we want to let our audience get to know you a little bit more. So I'm just gonna kind of go through and ask questions about you and your opinion on Gen Z and your dream for the show. So
Wonderful.
we're thrilled. So if you want to start with just who you are, your background, and then maybe end with what you're doing here at the Luce Center.
Yeah, absolutely. I just graduated from Benedictine College in Kansas about 2 months ago. But during my time at Benedictine, I was able to intern here with the Luce Center last summer in 2025. And that was such a wonderful experience. Being from this area, politics was very much a part of my everyday life. We would have political conversations. We'd talk about what the conservative movement looked like for my family. And I was very happy to have the summer opportunity to own it for myself. And to learn what it would look like to be an adult in the conservative movement. So I graduated with a degree in English and a minor in theology, and I loved it. And I'm very happy to be back home and to be working with such wonderful women who I admire and I'm personal friends with.
And what do you specifically do at the center?
Here at the Luce Center, I'm the membership coordinator, so I get to work with our wonderful members who are in the area as well as across the country. And then I'm also working on development to see where we can grow the Luce Center and what we're doing for young women across the country. So it's a very exciting time to join. I'm really happy to get to know everyone who supports us.
And we're so happy you're here. I want to go back a little bit and talk about your childhood and kind of how you got to where you are today. So how would you describe, you mentioned that you live in an area where policy is kind of always around you. And I mean, I grew up here too, and you always knew who the president was, even if you were like 4 years old. So what was your experience like there? How did your family play a role in helping you become conservative? Like what kind of value system were you raised under?
I think a very key factor for me was that I was homeschooled up until I attended a local diocesan Catholic high school. And having that sort of insular, in a good way, community as a young child to understand family values and an importance of faith and what it looks like to become a really fully living human person was modeled in my friends and in my friends' families that my family spent most of our time with. Although when I became older in middle school and high school, I sort of came outside of that bubble and realized more and more that the values that I was very likely to have ingrained in me were not shared across the board. And having that strong foundation surrounded by people with a similar mind was a really good jumping off point to be able to have difficult conversations. I remember one of my best friends in Irish dance, which I did for years. We were having a conversation during the 2016 election, and we were, 11 years old, 12 maybe. But of course, we already had pretty strong opinions, and we're having a pretty lively debate about it, like in between our rounds of dance at the dance class. And we brought up the topic of abortion because that was the divide between why she was pro Hillary Clinton and why I was not.
Interesting. And you're 12.
12 years old,
It's
yeah.
just very classic growing up in DC. This is, yeah. Okay,
It was
continue.
so eye-opening for me because I thought that was one issue on which most people could agree, knowing there were people out there who were pro-abortion, but that my friends and the people that I loved and I cared about were pro-life. And that experience really stuck with me just in terms of even the people that I love, even the people that I'm really close to. There's a lot of good, fruitful conversation to be done about what is virtuous and what is good for a country. But I think overall, I have been so lucky to have such a strong community here in the area, both faith-wise and a conservative community. And it's really highlighted to me the importance of having that for young women and having that for young conservatives, because I wouldn't be who I am and I wouldn't know how to defend this worldview and this approach towards living a good human life if it weren't for this strong community, which is also why I think we're doing such an important job here at the Luce Center.
Exactly. We know that better than everyone. And something that I think people like to generalize about really liberal areas and say that, well, I would never live there because there's no conservatives. I would have thought that about Northern Virginia. And when I was growing up, I was convinced we were the only conservative family in the area because everyone I went to school with was so much on the left. But then I walk in here and it like changes the game, and you realize there's all of these people all over the country who are like-minded and agree with you.
Yes.
So I just want to use your example of, the benefit of conservative community to say you can find someone everywhere you go. I mean, in California, in Maine, there are conservatives there too. So yeah, that's a good example of the fact that there are people like you everywhere.
There
So
really are.
I like that. Okay, great. So kind of going off of that, you go to Benedictine for college,
Mhm.
and now you are what, 2 months out of school?
2 months, yep.
Okay, so what is your advice to young women who are graduating in
Mhm.
December or graduating in May? What is your experience like in post grad, and what advice do you have for them to prepare for that time?
Mhm. For me, college was incredibly formative. It was the most alive. I'd felt the most connected to what I was studying, to my faith, to the community that I had with my friends. And I remember being very, very scared to graduate towards the beginning of my college experience. Who will I be without a strong community that I'm living with day to day? Who will I be without access to the faith that I had at a Catholic college? And who will I be without a mission to study and to become more fully myself? And I think, I mean, it's only been 2 months. But what I've been most grateful for in these 2 months is seeing the continuity of those things that I thought that I would only find at Benedictine.
Mm.
I was living with some of my best friends, and while many of the people from Kansas, from Benedictine, have moved back to this area, I also have a very strong relationship with some of the coworkers here, with family friends, with people I went to high school with new friends. And so there's been a continuity of community. I've been working on a continuity of faith as well. It definitely looks different trying to find time for prayer, or for me, it's daily mass, or just building a faith community when it's not built into my college life, but that's been something that's been incredibly grounding. And I'm very lucky to work here for a mission oriented group because while you're studying, you have a goal in mind. I'm going to
Mhm.
become an English professional or an English expert, and I'm going to study theology really well, and I'm bettering myself. And this is something that's making me fully human. And I'm lucky that I get to work at an organization where we do have a mission and I'm doing
Mhm.
something meaningful and I'm helping young women to become fully themselves and to find the opportunities that will help them contribute to their community and to this country. And so I think that continuity, even though it looks different during this phase of life, is something that I'm really excited to discover more of.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. Very well said. And I think that'll really resonate with a lot of people
Mhm.
who are considering what to do and the importance of mission focused work. And I think that I have friends who, they work at Capital One, but they have found a mission even within that. So I
Mhm.
think it's possible a lot of places. But yes, I definitely agree with you there. One thing you kind of hinted out that I want to get into a little bit more is like the difference between college and working life. And so specifically on the day to day, like helping young women prepare for a career, what do you think is the biggest difference between completing work for school and completing work for a full-time job?
Well, I think with doing schoolwork or doing academic homework, it's just about you. I mean, you're the one who gets the
Mhm.
grade, you're the one who's going to get the degree. The professors are looking at your performance. Whereas when you're working for young women or in an office of other people who are trying to accomplish this mission, you're really doing it together. So it's a lot of I'm serving somebody else right now, and other people are relying on me. And the work that I do is going to influence how people are able to be formed and access our resources and feel as though they have people supporting them. So there's pressure in a good way of other
Mhm.
people are relying on me, and what I do is no longer simply reflecting on my own success, but accomplishing something for someone else. And I think it's a really good opportunity to learn how to approach work as something that's sacrificial in a good sense of I'm not doing this for me. I'm not doing this for my own professional success, but I'm doing this for the people who need me to do a good job.
Yeah, that's a really important
Mm.
distinction. That's something I've been reflecting on a lot, how in college you could cram and wait till the last
Oh
minute
yeah.
to do something, and the temptation to do that is there. And a lot of times it kind of worked out.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's, you might be so far down the chain of the final product that if you aren't doing your piece, then everything else is
Yeah.
getting pushed back, and it's like this assembly line and can really mess with things long term. Okay, I want to talk about Gen Z specifically. So there's a lot of issues plaguing us as Gen Z right now. So in your opinion, what are the top three
Mm.
issues? And you can take a second. We can start with one and go
Okay.
from there.
I think my first one already is Gen Z's desire, which I see among my peers, I see all across social media, ironically, but it's a desire to leave a technological world behind, or a world that's so focused on social media or digital connection or digital product or AI, and a real desire to enter the real world and
Mhm.
encounter other people personally and face to face, do work that's meaningful. And I think that we are realizing now, especially 6 years post-COVID, how much a digital life and a digital world has really affected us and had us lose some of our humanity. I remember at the beginning of 2026 or end of 2025, there was this trend all across social media where everyone was going to go analog as soon as the new year hit. So everyone was throwing out their phones, they were getting cameras, different levels of being analog, but playing records or CDs. And there was this desire to get rid of anything that disconnected us from the real world. And that's given me a lot of hope, because I think while disconnection and a reliance on technology and a loneliness that comes with that is the biggest issue facing us as Gen Zers, it's also what we care about possibly the most. I think something else that Gen Z really cares about that reveals one challenge facing us is a desire for the respect of human rights. A lot of my generation on both sides, both conservative and liberal, really care a lot about the dignity of the human person and about those rights being respected. And honestly, that's a lot of the talking points that I see on the other side. That's really compelling to young women and young men. And similarly, for conservative Gen Zers, some of the most important issues that we're facing are those of being pro-life versus pro-abortion, those of the dangers of socialism and how that affects people's day-to-day lives, their safety, true life and death situations. And I think that's a very unifying factor among Gen Z, is how political conversations or policy conversations or political movements such as socialism, such as communism that we see sweeping Gen Z, it's actually really a question of human rights and human dignity. And that's a way to reach Gen Zers across the board, is that, having a respect for life or having a respect for what a true democratic republic looks like. It truly does preserve the dignity of people. And that's something that we really, really care about. I think a third issue that's really facing Gen Z right now is the question of what gender is and what does it mean to be a man and what does it mean to be a woman. And sort of a pendulum swinging. So on one side, you have the ideas of transgenderism, which propose that being a man isn't final or being a woman isn't final, and rather this is more of an expression or a personal identity rather than a persevering truth. And then on the other side, something that I've seen, especially on the very far right on social media and with Gen Z, is the idea that gender is a confining box. So rather than being made in the image and likeness of God and having dignity as a human person and having an intellect and a will, the greatest focus is you're a feeler or you're emotional or you're made to be in the home. Gender is a caricature at that point, because if you are truly a man but you feel like the caricature of a woman, then maybe you're a woman. Similarly, the caricature of a woman is somebody who stays at home and is quiet and isn't a leader and doesn't pursue virtue in the same way. And I think both of them really prevent men and women from flourishing as men and as women and as human beings who are both called to virtue in their individual state in life. So I think that's something that I've seen rising a lot in the past few years, and I'm very intrigued to see how we as a generation respond to it.
Yeah, definitely. And if you all want some more answers to questions like this, we have a book that is coming out. It'll probably be out by the time this episode is out, but it's called The Truth About Women, 23 Questions Every Conservative Should Be Able to Answer About Women, by our president, Kimberly Begg. So we will follow up on that, but I just had to plug the book while we were talking about this conversation because it is so important. So thanks for bringing that up. I agree on that one too. Okay, so I have 2 questions and the answer might be the same for both of them. But the first one is, who is your favorite conservative in general out there speaking publicly? It can be administration, can be an influencer. I don't even like to use that term. A conservative media head of some sort. And then also, who is your dream person to interview on the podcast?
Ooh, that is good. I might have to go a little more personal than a political figure or an influencer. Something I've talked about over the years is my aunt. Her name's Maureen, and she was a really big influence for me coming right out of high school. I interned with her organization for a while. They worked in a conservative group in Canada, and learning from her what it meant to be a conservative was very personally impactful for me. She talked about the importance of family and how issues that I wouldn't have considered as a 17-year-old really did all go back to what does it mean to promote humanity and to defend and safeguard life. So interning with her for a couple summers, as well as having a great relationship with her personally, was very formative for me. And while I've been very grateful to learn from public figures and conservatives in general, I think it was that personal connection and those conversations that have shaped me as a conservative more than anything else.
That's a really important distinction of like the people you look up to who you may never meet and the people who impact your day-to-day life. And Isabel Brown at our summit last year in Scottsdale, she gave this amazing speech. And one of the points that I will remember forever is how, the biggest influences don't happen because you have a million Instagram followers. It happens like over a cup of coffee, or the kid you disagree with in your science class, like getting,
Mhm.
together with them and just talking about the things that actually matter. So that is really special that your aunt was able to be that person to you. So it's like being able to look up to people and then also eventually be that person to other people as well.
Yeah.
And that's what we're all about too, like the importance of mentorship and being present for people. It's just
Mhm.
totally irreplaceable. So
Yeah.
I love that.
As far as a guest to have on the podcast, where my mind goes is that I would be really interested to interview Vice President J.D. Vance, honestly.
I knew you were going to say that for some
Really?
reason. That's really weird. I just heard a fun interview with him and Michael
Oh,
Knowles.
really?
So that must be why I was thinking about it.
Fair
Yeah.
enough.
Okay, explain.
So, I mean, I'm a Roman Catholic myself, and I think that a lot of the discussion about him as vice president is him as a Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
And I've wondered this my entire life. What does it look like to be a Christian and to also be in the conservative movement or to be in a political role? And I'd really like to have that personal conversation rather than trying to observe it from the outside. But I do find it very fascinating. What does it look like to be a person of faith in a
Yeah.
political role and in a role of power?
And newly to faith.
Yes, that's something else I'd be really
And he
curious to
just
know.
wrote that book.
I haven't read it yet.
Communion, I think is what it's
Yes.
called. He's a great role model for people and setting such an important example. And they just had a fourth baby.
I just
So
see
fun.
that. Oh my gosh.
So that's great. Okay, well, I think that is everything I wanted to run through.
Wonderful.
Is there anything else you want to share with the audience?
No, not that I can think of.
Okay. Thanks,
Very
Anastasia.
good.
We
Thank
are
you, Lauren.
so glad to have you as a host, and there will be much more with Anastasia and with Gen Z Unplugged. So we can't wait to continue
Wonderful.
going.
I'm so excited. It'll be great.